Some people have pictures of their wives on their desk, their kids, a dog perhaps. Rarely are those photos next to Civil War generals. But the more you get to know Paul and Joe, the more Ulysses S. Grant and William Tecumseh Sherman desk portraits make sense, or were perhaps inevitable. Paul Germain is bearded and bespectacled. He looks as if he played a pivotal role in developing the first Macintosh. Paul was described in a New Yorker article back in 1993 as rather intense, which is a fantastic description if you scratch out the word rather. Take a listen to the ferocity at which he tells stories that are over 20 years old.
Robert Goulet walks in the room, a little tiny short guy. And I said to him, the joke is that you're going to sing this. You're really going to sing it with heart. It's like you're singing Mozart. It's like an opera. He goes, Mozart didn't do opera. You don't know what you're talking about. It was so scary, because it's Robert Goulet. But he calmed down after a minute, and then we did it. And it was great.
During his interviews, Paul would ask for a break at about an hour in. During his break, Paul wouldn't use the restroom or ask for water. Instead, he'd just keep talking, and then eventually ask if I wanted to record what he'd been saying. The point is, Paul Germain does not take breaks.
When I was producing, I just was like a storm, like passing through. I talk really fast, and my level of energy is really, really high, and I know what I want. I just leave the room, and sometimes people would go, whew, whoa.
And yet, despite his fierceness, he and his stories can take a surprisingly reflective and emotional turn.
It was a period where I was learning to find myself as a producer and how it worked and what I could fight for. And I was reluctant to take people on. It hurt me in those days tremendously that I wasn't brave enough, I wasn't strong enough, I wasn't sure of myself enough in those days. And one of the ways I wasn't was in defending him.
And of course, it would be remiss not to mention his infectious laugh.
April Fools! My heart at Practice was, boom, 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 pounding. It totally got me.
His partner in crime is Joe Ansolabehere. Joe has a white head of hair and is as deeply engrossed in thought as any of the students in Raphael's School of Athens. He is a talker, and there are signs that it has gotten him in trouble now and again.
What happened was, and again, I don't know how much of this stuff is important or how much Paul wanted told, but...
And again.
Anyway, that's it. I don't want to say anything more about it, but I probably said too much.
And again.
You're asking me something, probably we should cut this whole thing up, but now I've said it, I've let it out of the bag.
And again.
I'll give you an example, like this executive, and he's another guy who's around, and he's a big deal executive now, and I don't want to put him down. I like him, but...
And again.
I'm getting a lot of trouble saying this stuff, but that's what it feels like anyway.
And again.
You're asking a question that really gets to some stuff that I almost don't want to say, but I'm going to.
Joe has the energy of a protester who maybe lost some of his idealism after one too many bouts with the man. There are times when he is reminiscent of one of his own characters in Recess, Principal Prickly, who lost the passion he used to have for his field and is waiting for inspiration to take hold again.
If I were fighting for something that was about characters who I thought were really interesting, or thematically I thought was really interesting and subtle, and that was an extension of that 1970s filmmaking, I think I could probably go back there and fight. Hopefully. But when you're fighting about a kid who lives in outer space and rides a surfboard around or whatever, it's like, if they want it to be different, I don't care. Which is not necessarily the way to make something in this world. If you really want to make something good, you have to really be that passionate about something, I think.
However, it is essential to remember that Joe is the one who stormed into Paul's office with the headshots of Grant and Sherman all those years ago, and not the other way around. He once had an intensity that rivaled Paul's, and at times exceeded it.
I remember getting really angry, kind of yelling at somebody on the phone, and I pulled the phone, and I just God damn it, I pulled the phone out and I just threw it across the room, and I was so mad.
An intensity that even scared Paul Germain.
I said, Joe, you just destroyed your phone. He goes, I know.
Together, they are a self-admitted married couple, and they do all the cute things that old married couples do. They interrupt each other.
That was at the very end of 1995 that we thought it was going to go.
Because we were doing it over Christmas and into January.
Oh, were we?
Okay, so we kind of had a sense that it might not happen.
Yeah, it did. It felt like it wasn't going to happen.
But it was like
you could feel when these things are going south. When you go, the executives aren't enthusiastic about it. You can just feel that it's not going to happen.
They were happy,
they were. They're not.
They protect each other.
Yeah, there's one famous meeting.
I don't use names.
They try to remember the names of old acquaintances.
It was Joe Ross? No. It was Joe. He was gone. It was what's his name? The guy.
Tom?
No, it was before Tom. I can't think of his name. Anyway, it doesn't matter. That even in the movie, it didn't really affect us that much. Yeah.
Peter Schneider? Don't you remember? No.
And like most older couples, they try to remember if someone is still living.
So we had this great guy named, what's his name again? It was John. I can't think of his last name. He died, was it? No, he didn't. I don't think so.
There's also the occasional moment when their two voices become one.
We're Joe and Paul.
Paul and Joe.
And if you're wondering, yes, they've been to couples therapy.
I'll tell you a secret about Paul. Mind if I do? I don't know what it is. He's not. He doesn't like. He didn't like. Mind saying that? Yeah, I do mind. Okay.
That's the relationship of Paul and Joe in 2017. But their journeys to Hollywood and Grant and Sherman began all the way back in the 1950s.